Here we go. All right. Good morning, officially. Welcome to. Day is today Tuesday. Welcome to Tuesday. What's that?
Been a week.
It's been a full week now. We've been back. Everybody happy? Everybody settling in?
Yeah.
Sort of. Yeah. We started a little bit late today because we're checking vaccine cards at the front door, and so there's a bit of a lineup, and so I assume some of our people are stuck in the line, and hopefully they'll come in very soon. But Adon is here, so good morning to you, sir, and Jesse's here. Good morning, Jesse. And we'll kind of let's jump into where we were yesterday. All right. So yesterday. Yes, I'm just going to go back to this.
Critical thinking.
Yeah, yesterday we had just finished talking about, well, not finished, we'll talk more. We just finished talking about critical thinking, right? And of course I gave you a little assignment to do to create your own argument and tell me why this is a good argument, right? Tell me why this is, why the conclusion, why the premises logically support the conclusion, and to show me that the premises are true, or at least explain to me how they could be true. And did you want to ask any questions about that right now, or talk about it, or good morning?
Good morning.
Or how did the assignments going okay? I know.
I submitted it yesterday.
Submitted it. All done. Okay, that's good. I know. Sorry, just 1 second. I know it's a little tricky to kind of start off doing these things, and it is tricky because we're not, we usually don't purposely craft an argument. But again, I'll try to keep coming back to this skill of figuring out what arguments are and explaining them and assessing them, because again, they're very useful in life. And one of the things I forgot to mention is it's very useful in paper writing as well, right? Because lots of the papers you write or that people will want you to write in college are kind of arguments, right? You're trying to say, this is what I understand, this is what I think is the case, and here's why, right? Here's the evidence. And so if you can create an argument for yourself, you've got your paper outline, right? You remember the coffee argument? Of course you do, right? The coffee argument. I could write a paper on that. Probably wouldn't be very exciting or interesting, but I could do it, right? That's a quick outline. I could start doing research. I could put a little paper together very easily, right?
I still have some problem understanding validation.
Okay. Well, let's do. Okay, let's do another example, okay? Because we've got some time here, and I think you're not the only one who kind of struggled to sort of validate their argument or to prove that it was a good argument. Here's going to be our conclusion, okay? So we're going to make an argument. We're going to make an argument right here, right now. I'll give us a conclusion. You can help me out with some premises. Cats make better pets than dogs. Okay, the conclusion of our argument is cats make better. Good morning. Cats make better pets than dogs. Now, you may not agree with this, right? This is a very contentious issue of is the dog or the cat better, but that's okay. We're just going to go with cats. Okay, so cats make better pets than dogs. Why should we believe that? Over to you. Okay, 1 second. Cats are? They are cute. They are cute. But dogs are cute too, right? So we need a premise that kind of distinguishes cats from dogs, right? Cats are cute, dogs are cute. But it's a premise, right? People often like pets that are cute. Not always, but
I think cats are cuter than dogs.
Uh, okay. Yeah, it's true, right? And that could be a premise, right? But again, it's kind of an opinion-based one, right? It's like, well, there's no way to prove that cats are cuter than dogs. Ethel.
I can say that cats are easier to, like, you don't have to get them for a walk 5 times
Oh,
a day.
okay.
But you
Yeah.
have to, like, take your dogs for a walk.
Easier
like,
to handle.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
So
very
exactly.
okay, so that's good. Let's start there, okay? So cats would make better pets than dogs. Why is that? Why should we believe that? Well, because they're lower maintenance, right? You don't have to walk them all the time. They don't have to go out to go to the bathroom all the time. They kind of, to some degree, they kind of take care of themselves, right? So if you're a busy person and you don't have hours and hours every day to walk the dog, then yeah, that might be the pet for you, right? So that's a good premise, right? It distinguishes cats from dogs. They are lower maintenance, easier to kind of handle, as Eunice says, easier to deal with. Okay, that's one. Jesse says here, cats can keep pests out of your home, like mice, right? So that's not a bad one either, right? Depending on the kind of house you live in. I know I lived in a house a while ago, and the cat used to like to go down into the basement and hunt bugs, which I was only too happy to let her do, right? Because I don't want bugs in the house. So if she wants to go hunt them all day, fantastic, right? She's entertained. There's fewer bugs in the house. Great, right? So Jesse's got one here too. Yeah, cats can keep pests out of the house, right? Morning, Peter. That's a good one. What else do we have? Cats make better pets than dogs. Hmm. Could we say that maybe they're cheaper? Might it be cheaper to have a cat than a dog?
Not all cats are cheap.
No?
There's one that's very expensive. I know that one kind of
But
cat.
I guess they're cheaper to, handle. Like their food cost and everything is
Yeah, that's kind of what
less
I'm.
than dogs.
That's kind of what I was thinking is food, right? They're usually smaller animals, although there's some pretty small dogs. But usually, cats are smaller than dogs, and so in theory, they're going to eat less.
Oh,
And
smaller food portions.
yeah, smaller food portions.
They're cheaper to handle.
Yeah, I don't know. Does that sound true-ish?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe the average cat,
Yeah,
right?
I had cats.
Yeah.
I had
The average cat probably eats less than the average dog. Therefore, on average, they're kind of cheaper to maintain, right? Again, if you have a tiny little dog, maybe it's the same, right? But of course, if you have a giant dog, it's very different, maybe. What else? Cats make better pets than dogs.
They might be home, like more than dogs.
Uh-huh. Okay.
I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah. Yeah, they're around, right? They like to hang out.
Yeah.
Okay. So this might be a bit of a lifestyle thing, right? If you're someone who likes to be out all the time, then maybe you would enjoy a dog because dogs like to be out. But if you're kind of a homey person, right? You like to hang out at home and do things at home, then maybe a cat is more kind of more aligned with you, right? Because the cat will want to hang out around the house too, right? Anything else we can come up with?
cats drink milk, dogs don't.
True, but is that a reason why someone might say that cats are better?
That's what comes in my mind.
Yep, that's a fact, right? But it's not. But it's not a good premise. Although dogs will go crazy for cheese, we know that.
Yeah.
They love their cheese. Okay. All right. Let's work with that, shall we? So, cats make better pets than dogs. That is the conclusion. Why should we believe that? Well, premise one was that cats are kind of lower maintenance, right? They're kind of easier to deal with. You don't have to walk them 10 times a day, etc. Now, let's validate it. Is that true? Is it true that cats are lower maintenance than dogs?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it mostly is, right? Right? I'm sure some dogs are higher maintenance than others, and some
Yeah.
cats can be a pain in the butt. But I mean, is it generally true?
Yeah.
I think it is, right? And again, from having a dog when I was younger, and when the dog, starts to nose you because it needs to go out, and it's 6 in the morning, and it's the middle of winter, and it's dark and cold and snowy. Ugh. You gotta get dressed. Then the dog goes out and it just sniffs, and you're like, hurry up and go to the bathroom, please. It's freezing, and the dog is not going. It's just sniffing everywhere, and yeah. So the first one is I think we can understand as true, right? Now we'll look at logical support. Is lower maintenance a reason why someone might feel that cats are better than dogs? I think so, right? I think especially if that was, if you didn't have a lot of time, or maybe you just don't want to put a lot of work into your pets, then yeah, that might convince someone that cats are better than dogs, right? What's our second premise here? Jesse had a premise that cats can help keep pests out of your home, right, as a premise. So let's evaluate it. Is that true? Morning Kayla, can cats keep pests out of your home?
Yes.
Yeah, right? They like to hunt, often they like to hunt mice, they like to hunt little bugs and spiders and all kinds of things that are gross and you don't want in your house. Fantastic, right? Is that a reason why someone might feel cats are better than dogs?
Yep.
Yeah, right? Very, very possible that someone might like a cat as a pet more than a dog because they might want to make sure that their home is pest-free, right?
Reminds me of Tom and Jerry.
Yeah.
Tom and Jerry.
Always used to yell at Tom. Thomas.
Yeah, right? Okay, so that's a good premise too. What else did we talk about? Yeah, so if we go back, sorry, Dunya, I'm going to pull your premise back out here. So Dunya's first kind of thought was, oh, well, cats are cuter than dogs, right? And again, maybe they are, but is that a reason why someone might choose a cat over a dog because cats are cuter than dogs? Sure, right? If you think cats are cuter, you might choose them as a pet, right? But is it true?
Yeah, because the activities of cats are pretty different from dogs, and I think they're cuter.
You think they're cuter, right? But not everyone does,
Yeah.
right? And again, can you scientifically prove that cats are cuter?
No.
Tough one, right? It's a matter of opinion, Dunya.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sometimes they do weird, I don't know, weird.
Yeah, they're crazy sometimes,
they
right?
come up and rub their head against our hand or us. And sometimes cats purr.
They do.
Cats purr is the very cute thing. It's a very cute thing. So dogs don't purr.
That's true, right? They purr. Cats do all kinds of quirky, funny things, right? Sometimes they just come up to you and rub their head on you, and that's really nice, right? But again, does it prove that cats are cuter? No, right? Some people like dogs that are bouncing around and they're slobbering and their tongue is everywhere and they're super happy, and that's kind of cute too, right? And so,
Very.
yeah, so you can't definitively say that one is cuter than the other. You can have an opinion on that, right? And Dunya has an opinion, and Zartaj has an opinion. I'm sure you all have opinions on this, but
It doesn't prove anything.
yeah, you just can't prove it, right? It's a personal preference. Yeah. So when we evaluate it as a premise, it holds up in terms of its logical support. If you thought cats were cuter, it would be a reason why you would say that they make a better pet. But oh gosh, it's just hard to prove as true. It might be true for you, but it might not be true for everybody. So it's not a super strong premise, right? Because people, but if you go to one of the other ones, if you say, well, cats are lower maintenance, right? You don't have to take them out 10 times a day. It's hard to deny the truth of that, right? Even dog owners will say, yeah, you got me there. I gotta take this dog out multiple times a day. Dog needs to be walked, an hour or two a day.
How about
There's no disputing.
how
What?
about this point that the saliva of the dogs are pretty deadly because it contains bacteria that doesn't like go away easily even if you wash. And the saliva of the cat are not that deadly because that doesn't contain that bacteria, that deadly bacteria.
I'm not. I'd have to look into that. I don't know about the sort of.
Yeah, I've seen a scientific experiment on that.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
I've been slobbered on by a lot of dogs, and I've also been licked by a cat.
What breed did you have?
I had a Labrador Retriever
Oh.
when we were younger. Yeah. So
I also had one back in my country.
yeah,
Labrador Retriever.
they're nice.
Cute.
They're cute and they have really nice personalities. They're very
Yeah.
friendly
I
and
had a
happy.
They're family dogs, right?
They are family dogs.
I had a puppy. I used to put it in the backyard.
Yeah. You need a bit of space for a dog
Yeah.
like that, right?
They run everywhere,
They do run everywhere.
especially at night, or maybe it's just my dog. He likes to run around at night.
Yeah.
Cats can be kept in one room or so, but dogs need a piece of space.
Dogs need space, right?
That's
Yeah.
it. Fun.
So if you don't have a lot of but so we could talk about cats and dogs all day long here, of course, and I wouldn't mind it. But you can see what we're doing here, right? We're coming up with a reason why the conclusion might be true, and then we check it to see if it's logical support and if it's true, right? And so some of them are both of those things, right? The lower maintenance is true and is logical support for the conclusion. But a premise like, sorry, Dunya, no offense, but a premise like, they're cuter is more difficult, right? It's logical support, absolutely, but it's just, it's so tough to prove, right? It's a personal preference,
Very
right?
personal.
Okay, can we leave that for now and move on? Okay, we'll definitely come back to critical thinking again and again because again, I think it's an important skill to know, okay? Now, so the first part of this course had to do with theoretical stuff, right? So theory and approach. Now we're going to get into something that's similarly very important, and it has to do with culture and socialization, okay? And so we're going to start this. I'm going to start this out and say that this is kind of part of my anthropology course and part of my comparative cultures course as well. But culture is the most important thing that humans have, okay? Because how many people have been around a little baby? Little baby? Seen one at least in real life? If you see a little baby who's kind of recently born, really what you're looking at is a piece of hardware, okay? So imagine you're looking at like a little computer, right? So this little device here has just been born, but this little baby has no operating system, okay? It's like a computer with no Windows or no OS 10 or whatever they're calling the Mac operating system now. The baby has no operating system, right? And have you ever seen a computer with no operating system installed?
It looks very
Yeah? What does it do? Yeah, it just kind of blinks at you, right? There's a little cursor that blinks on a black screen, and it does nothing, right? Because it doesn't know how, right? The computer has all the hardware, but it doesn't really know how to do anything. And so you have to give it an operating system. You have to give it Windows or OS 10 or whatever this is, and then the computer will know how to do things, right? It will know how to go onto the internet and check your email and watch videos and all that kind of stuff, right? And as time goes on, of course, you can give it more, you can give it other skills, right? You can download and install other programs that can teach the computer to do other things, right? But without an operating system, the computer doesn't do much, right? It just sits there, right? And humans are, well, for better or for worse, humans are the same way, right? Humans are born really with no operating system at all. And so if you've ever seen on those kind of nature channels where, you know, a baby horse or a baby cow or something is born and it comes out of the mother,
Yeah.
and then a minute later
Standard.
it stands up and it's running around, right? And then it's kind of suckling from its mother and it's doing things, right? But as you probably know, humans can't do that, right? Humans are born and they can't walk for the better part of a year, right? They can't feed themselves for probably a couple of years, right? And they definitely can't take care of themselves for, well, gosh, I don't think you should even leave them alone at home before they're 10 years old, right? So there's 10 years that they're 100% dependent on you. And even after that, they're still dependent, right? And you guys are probably still dependent on your parents right now, right? So humans have kind of this long period of childhood, right? And part of it has to do with the fact that we need to know so much, right? Our operating system is so big, it takes years and years to download, right? That's a very slow progress bar. And I would argue that it never really stops. I would argue that you're continually learning things throughout your life, right? And when you're little, of course, you're learning lots and lots of things. As you grow older, you kind of start to learn less and less. But I would still suggest that you're constantly being given new software all the way through your life. So Tosh,
And how is this connected to the topic?
I will explain. Trust me.
I'm not getting it.
I'm getting there. Trust me. So humans are like this, right? This is how most of the things. Yeah. So because this is so important, and because our operating system is so big, and because we're not born with any of it, almost everything that humans do and think and feel comes from their operating system, comes from their culture. Yeah.
Now I get it.
Yeah. So humans we have a drive to eat, right? We have a drive to eat. We have a drive to protect ourselves from uncomfortable situations, whether it's cold or too hot or whatever it is. We have a few inborn fears that, heights and loud noises and things like that. We have a sex drive that will come into operation years later, right? When this baby is, in their teens. But after that, there's not that much, right? There's not that much that's pre-wired into us. And so, again, if you want to understand what humans do, you have to look at culture and socialization, because the things that we do and the things that we think and the things that we believe are not biologically based. They're culturally based, right? For all of us. And so, everything that humans do has to do with our cultural beliefs, our cultural values, right? To be a living human is to be a practitioner of culture, right? And again, everything you do is a cultural act. This morning, the first thing I did, I got up out of bed, and what did I do? Brushed my teeth, right? Why did I brush my teeth? Well,
Culture.
what's that?
It's like culture, like we've been learning it from our childhood.
Yeah, right? Your culture has taught you that you need to brush your teeth, right? If you don't brush your teeth will rot and fall out of your mouth, right? And your breath will be
Cavities.
horrible. You'll have cavities. Nobody will want to talk to you because your breath will be like, oh my God. Right? So it'll be a turnoff, right? So our culture teaches us this, and so every morning we get up and we brush our teeth, right? Most people wouldn't think of that as a cultural act, but indeed it is, right? And it's one we share, or at least I hope we share. It's it's been passed down for quite a while, right? And so what's happening here is that we've all undergone a process of enculturation, right? We've all undergone a process of learning these learning our culture, right? Learning our beliefs, our values, and our behaviors, right? Our things that we are kind of taught to do. So, this is kind of what we'll say that culture is, right? Because sometimes we think of culture, especially when we're on our phones. Sometimes we think of culture by the surface things, right? We think about the way people dress, we think about their food, we think about, Chinese New Year and celebrations like that. But that's all kind of very superficial stuff, right? Really what culture is this kind of thing. It's a system of shared beliefs and values and customs and behaviors and artifacts. Artifacts are physical objects that are common to a society, right? And again, we are taught this as we grow, right? Our parents or our caregivers or our teachers or people around us are constantly trying to enculturate us, are constantly trying to teach us how to be good humans, how to interact with our environment, and how to cooperate with other humans, right? That's kind of what culture does for us. So I'll show you this a number of times in this course, but as you can see, this kind of shows what I was pointing out. Some of the things that we think about culture are really just on the surface, right? People's dances and literature, their language, their dress, all of that stuff is easily visible. But the real important part of culture, not that stuff isn't important, but the real part of culture is in that lower area, the part that you don't see, right?
Inside the water.
Yeah, under the water. This is kind of an iceberg metaphor, if you will. It's not a very good picture of an iceberg, but I guess they put a polar bear in there to convince you that it's an iceberg.
That's a bear?
It's a polar bear.
I thought that was a squirrel.
Does it look like a squirrel?
It looks like
Oh,
a
I
squirrel.
see. I see how you could. No, it's okay. It's not a squirrel. It's a polar bear.
Oh.
But I see the squirrelness of it. But look at some of those. Aspects of culture, right? Probably things that people don't think about very often, right? What does it mean to be polite in your culture or in any culture, right? What are the rules of politeness? There's a lot of them, right? There's a lot of ways in which to be polite and a lot of ways in which you can be not polite, right? How do you have a conversation with people, right? What kind of things do you talk about? How long do conversations go, right? Who do you talk about what? With whom do you talk about what, right? Cultural. Concept of time, right? Is your culture very time-oriented, or do things kind of get done, when they get done, right? Things will happen when they happen. Cultures are different, right? Some are very time organized and reliant on time. Others are a little bit more flexible, right? Personal space. How close do you stand to people when you speak to them, especially if you don't know them? You stand far away, you stand close, right? That's a cultural thing, right? Some cultures like to stand closer to one another. Other cultures are like, hey, back off a little bit. Right? Nonverbal communication, right? How do you express yourself in conversation to others, right? Are you expected to just kind of sit there and speak, or are you expected to use your hands and tell people what you mean for crying, And again, some of that is individual, right? Some people are like that, but then some cultures are like that as well, right? They encourage a lot more movement and energy in their communication, whereas some cultures are very reserved, right? And you don't make a fuss like that. What else is there here? Facial expressions, body language, eye contact, right? I think most of us are encouraged to make eye contact with people, right? Because it shows that you're listening, right? That you're paying attention to them. I see you. I'm paying attention to what you say, right? But not all cultures are like that, right? Some cultures feel that eye contact is kind of aggressive, right? And so And I think indigenous cultures were like this originally as well. That if someone was speaking, you didn't stare right at them. Like that was an aggressive thing, right? So when someone was speaking, you listened, but you didn't look, you didn't make eye contact, right? But again, it's a cultural difference, right? Again, most of us know that too much eye contact is weird, right? So you want to make eye contact with people, but you also want to shift away sometimes, right? Because if it's too long, it's creepy, right? Or it's aggressive.
Feels like, why is he staring at me?
Exactly. And how do you know? Isn't it funny that I think you all have an idea of when eye contact is good, and then when it goes over the line and it's like, okay, now you're staring at me, right?
That's also cultural adaptation.
Yeah, but it's funny, how do you know when that happens? How do you know when it's like too much eye contact?
Because it's just a feeling.
It's just a feeling, right? How do you know when someone is standing just a little too close to you? It's just a feeling, right? Nobody ever said to you, your parents didn't sit you down and say, look, when you talk to people on the street, you must be this far away from them. No, but you just kind of feel it. You're like, oh, this person's too close.
Yeah.
Back up a bit, just give me a few more inches and we'll be good, right? But we have this kind of feeling, right? We've absorbed this idea, which is so interesting. Relationship to animals, right? Some people have all kinds of different relationships to animals, especially pets, right? Once upon a time, I think North America, or maybe it was the U.S., I think people were calling it like the temple of the dog, right? Because people were like taking such good care of their dogs, right? Like, around the world, people have their dogs and they love them. But, in the U.S., it was like, oh, dogs have spas and daycares and things like that. And so
They don't have it here?
they do now.
Oh.
But it was in the past. Let's see. Concepts of food, right? Every culture has an idea of what foods are appropriate to eat, right? And which things are not appropriate to eat, right? My culture says don't eat bugs. Eating bugs is gross, for the most part, except the fancy chefs who like to cook with crickets and things like that because they're so cutting edge. But for the most part, my culture says no eating bugs, right? But you can eat bugs, and there are cultures that do. Like they're a very environmentally sustainable source of protein. So huh?
Prawns are bugs.
Well, they kind of look like bugs.
Prawn?
No, prawns?
Isn't that seafood?
That's
Yeah,
seafood.
They're in the department of bugs, I guess.
Yeah, they're underwater bugs.
Water bugs. Right. I learned about it.
But that's the thing, right? Is that every culture has kind of different rules, right? Some don't eat seafood, some do. Some don't eat meat, some do. Some eat bugs, some don't. Yeah, so humans can eat and have eaten just about everything you can imagine on the surface of the earth. At some point or another, humans have eaten those things, right? But again, every culture has an idea of what is desirable and permissible to eat, and then things that are not food, right? Again, those vary, right? And keep in mind that on the left side of the page here, as you go deeper into culture, people have stronger emotional attachments to these ideas, right? So look at, concepts of food. Is it gross to think of eating bugs? No? You're okay with it?
Sort of.
Sort of? Okay. Do they eat bugs in Indonesia?
No, it's not normal, but I have eaten bugs.
Yeah? What kind?
I forgot, but it was years ago.
Okay. So depending on, can you think of, Eunice, what kind of thing would would really gross you out to eat?
Dog vomit.
Ugh, okay.
They,
That's clearly not a food,
that they eat in South Korea.
although dogs will eat it again. What's that?
So South Korean people, the festival where they eat dog's vomit.
I've never heard that.
South Korea?
Never heard that before.
South Korean, yeah, it's like
That's not normal.
yeah, that's not normal. It's like a small village type area.
Okay, I'll have to look into that. I've never heard of that before. Maybe this is going to go off the rails. Anyway, if you think of something that your culture says is not food, right, and you shouldn't eat it, and then if you think about eating it, you probably have a very strong reaction, right?
Cockroach.
What's that?
Cockroach.
Yeah, like a cockroach, right?
Like-
I think I've tried it.
The thought, ugh, yeah, okay.
It's crunchy.
Yeah, the thought of eating a cockroach like that really like disgusts me, right? But again, that's a cultural thing, right? Yeah, there's nothing really wrong with eating one, right? I'm sure humans have eaten them in the past and will eat them in the future. I don't think, they're not poisonous, right? And
So-
maybe you have to cook them appropriately. I don't know, but
So back in my country when I was in class standard 6 in my school,
yeah.
there was a guy who came from Germany, so he was my classmate. So he saw a running cockroach on his table. He just grabbed it by his hand and
Ew.
put it on his burger. He just ate it. I was like,
That is gross. That's a shock
I was
tactic,
like,
though.
What the hell, man? And
That's-
he's like, it's like it's normal for me. I eat cockroaches. You eat cockroaches. It's
Yeah,
their
well,
culture.
maybe it's normal for him. I don't think
Okay,
it's.
yeah,
I don't
maybe
think it's a
it's-
German thing. I don't think it's a
I
German
don't
thing.
know. Really.
But what I'm saying here is that you have a strong emotional reaction, right? The idea of eating something that your culture says is not food is ugh, gross, right? And again, as you go deeper, you'll see that people have much more emotional attachment to those ideas, right? And so when you get down to things like people's definition of obscenity, right? Things that are obscene. People will have sometimes a strong reaction to those things, right? Ideas about sex and gender, right? About sexual behavior, but also about gender, right? What a man is, what a woman is, the breaking of those rules, if those rules are broken. People will have strong reactions to it, right? So again, as you go deeper, people have a strong reaction, right? At the top, concepts of personal space. If someone stands a little too close to you, you won't freak out, right? You'll just back up a little bit, right? No big deal. If they happen to get a little too close, just back up, right? No big deal. But some of these other things, if they're violated, people can have a stronger reaction, okay? So I want to introduce this term, and socialization is the process that we all go through to learn the kind of norms of our society, okay? To learn the things and behaviors that we need in order to move through the world, right? And so without thinking about it, you've all relied on your socialization this morning, right? You got up in the morning, you probably brushed your teeth, right? Because your society says that you should do that, and maybe you made yourself look pretty to whatever degree. As you can tell, I spent hours getting ready. This hair doesn't just happen like this, it takes a lot of work.
You look good anyway.
Thanks. That's what my partner says too. It really annoys her. So I just wake up and I'm ready, and she's just like, "Rrr." Gotta go to the bathroom and wash my face and do my, moisturize and my serums and my
Makeup.
hair and makeup, and I just get up, and so when I wake up, I'm like, oh, ready to go, and she's like, "Rrr."
Yep.
But anyway, we can talk about that later when we get to sexism. So we've all gone through this process of socialization, and you've followed social rules, right? You got up, you brushed your teeth, you dressed yourself in a socially acceptable way, right? Everyone chose to wear clothing today to school, which is, I appreciate, right? Everybody wore pants. Good for you, right? Our society says you should wear pants, right? Or something to cover your lower half of your body, and we've all done that. Good work, right? You came here, you said hi to people, right? When you saw them, because society says that if you know someone, you should say hi or good morning, right? You all kind of followed a bunch of social rules without even really paying attention to it, right? Because you have been very well socialized, right? You've been very well taught the sort of normal behavior of society. And again, some of you may have noticed, or some of you may not have noticed, that when you come to a new country, when you come to a new culture, sometimes you might find that those normal behaviors are a little different, right? You might find that there's some context in which you're like, oh, I'm not sure what to do here, or this doesn't work like it did at home, or what am I supposed to do now? Has anyone had a
Culture shock?
little culture shock?
Yeah.
Yeah, what happened?
Because in Indonesia, it's not like like how we dress and stuff is different, and like that before marriage and stuff.
Okay.
Like
Oh, okay.
it's very different because Indonesia is still a pretty conservative country. Like LGBT and stuff is still not accepted here.
Right. So entering a more liberal country is a little surprising, right?
Maybe
To
because
see?
it's a Muslim country in Indonesia.
Yeah. Yeah, very, very true, right? So you come to a country and you may see or experience things that you wouldn't
Yeah.
see at home, right?
Culture shock.
Yeah, a little bit. Dunya, I feel like you were. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, just like straight people? Yeah. 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 Those public displays of affection, right?
Yeah.
Even though like my country like has most of people and push like some people that don't even have a religion,
Yeah.
but we still we don't like do this.
Yeah, it's not normal in Indonesia either.
Yeah.
You do that, you'll get
But now it's
gossip and
normal.
stared at.
But now
Now it's normal.
it's normal. Yeah. So, and that's the interesting thing, right? Is that in terms of public displays of affection, yeah, those things vary among cultures, right? In some cultures, yeah, there's no kissing in public, right? Kissing is for you do that in your home, right?
Yeah.
That's what you do there. But sometimes hand holding is okay,
Yeah.
right?
Now it's okay.
Yeah. And again, every culture has rules, right? Even like here in Canada, we're a little more relaxed, right? You can hug people, you can kiss them in public, you can hold their hand, but there's going to be a point where it's too much, right? Canadians don't want to see people in the park just full on.
Yeah.
Like there's a point where it's like, okay, this is a public place, there are children around, like
Yeah.
just just cool it, or get a room, as people people will sometimes say, right? They're like, get a room already.
I think that's against the law, I guess, right?
I think there are obscenity laws, and so if you had two people like trying to have sex in a public place, you would be violating those laws. But it doesn't happen. Like nobody.
You can get arrested if you do
I
that.
think you can. I think you can. I don't know of anyone who, for the most part, like, if that were to happen, people try to find like a place that's out of the way, right, where people won't discover them. And if somebody does discover them, they kind of stop and they're like, whoops.
There is law of public nudity.
There's a law of what?
Public nudity.
Yeah, so public nudity is not allowed, right? You're not allowed to walk down the street with no clothes on, right? That's not allowed, right? Again, most people don't want to do it, right? Because of socialization, right? Social norms. So most people don't want to walk around naked, right? And I think we have a law against it. We probably do. But you almost don't need a law, right? Because people don't want to do it. If it was legal tomorrow, I would not do it,
Yeah.
right? Would any of you?
No.
No, right? So that's the thing, is that the socialization becomes very strong, right? And you don't have to, you don't have to put in place formal rules and punishments, even if they are there, because most people don't want to do it, right? Murder is illegal, but do any of you want to murder anyone?
In
Maybe-
USA,
maybe-
there was a group of good women who wanted equal rights as men, and they were like got very close because if a guy can like roam on without any top on, then
Exactly.
they can also do that. They were like fighting for this weird thing.
It's true. I think that's more of a political statement, though, because I think most women would say, even if I was allowed to walk around with no shirt on, I would not do that, right? And so, but again, the socialization becomes very strong, right? So even if there's a law, people don't want to do it, right? People, there's a law against walking around naked, but if you took the law away tomorrow, you wouldn't see, hundreds of naked people walking around, right? People would still wear clothes. And again, because of socialization, right? You wouldn't even think about leaving the house without clothes on, right? The very thought of that is ridiculous, right?
It's something that we do with the generation, maybe, the older generation.
Well, that's the other thing too, is that these social norms are these sort of social rules are created by society. They're passed down, but they also do change from time to time, right? What do you normally do, or what did you normally do when you met someone? Oh, hi, how's it going? Right? You would shake their hand, right? But now we don't do that anymore, right? Because COVID and the whole thing, sometimes we wave, or we elbow bump, or we, do an air hug or something like that.
Or
We,
just say hello.
yeah, or just say hello, right? So we've had to kind of change our social behavior in a lot of ways because of this virus, right? And again, social norms do change, right? Things that we used to do, we don't do anymore, right? And things that we never did, now we do. And again, of course, there'll be a difference between older generation and younger, right? Younger generations will often want things to change, and older generations will want things to stay the same, right? And so that's kind of a common pattern. But yeah, society's norms will often kind of evolve over time, right? Sometimes just because, or sometimes in response to things like a pandemic where you're supposed to wear a mask and you're supposed to not touch other people, right? You just elbow bump them or whatever, right? Anyway, my point here is that this has happened to all of us, right? We have been enculturated, we have been socialized, and I would argue that we are still being socialized, right? We are still being taught culture, and we enforce it with others, right? I'm just going to take a quick second to say this, that there's kind of two words floating around here, enculturated and socialized. For our purposes, they basically mean the same thing. Okay, so if this was a sociology class, which it more is, you would use socialization. If it was an anthropology class, anthropologists would use enculturation, but they're mostly the same thing. So just so you know, we're talking about the same thing. I'll probably use socialization going forward, okay? And again, that's the process of learning society's norms and values and beliefs, okay? I'm going to give you a break in a second here, but the last thing I'll say before I do is we're learning all of these kind of behaviors, right? We learn them from the time when we're very young all the way till today, and we'll continue to learn these behaviors. And we not only do we teach them, but we try to enforce the rules as well, right? So we were talking about, the nudity thing, but let's back that up a little bit. And let's say tomorrow I come into school here, as I usually do, but tomorrow I'm wearing a beautiful dress. Okay?
Dress?
Yes. Wearing a beautiful dress. How do you think people will react to me?
Shocked?
Shocked? Okay. How do you think what do you think they'll do or say or not do?
They'll keep staring at you.
Yeah.
They'll stare at me.
Give you the side eye.
They'll give me the side eye, like what's up with that dude? Why is he wearing a dress? Right? What else will they do?
They'll some people know that you laugh at you.
Some people might laugh at me, right, and point and go, right? Nice dress, Metcalf.
Yeah,
Right?
call out names or comment.
What's that?
Some people call out names or comment.
They might somebody might call me names, right? What else might happen?
Get you viral on the internet.
I might go viral on the internet for all the wrong reasons.
Nice dress.
What else? People might not talk to me, right? They might be like, oh,
Think you're crazy.
they might think I'm crazy, right? They might think I'm a little
High.
weird, a little high, maybe. Who knows what people will think, right?
Those who know you may feel a bit ashamed of being with you. or
Sure.
being in front of you.
Yeah, people will socially avoid me, right? Because they don't want to be seen with me, right? And so why do people react that way? If I were to wear a dress, why would they react that way?
Because dresses are made for girls, not boys.
Yeah. That's
Men,
the
not for
that's the rule, right? The social rule is that dresses are clothing that is worn by women, not men, right? So when I break the rule, what happens? People punish me a little bit, don't they? Right? And they're trying to get me to, they're punishing me because they want me to follow the rule, right? They don't want me to wear dresses to work. They want me to wear men's clothing to work, right? And so people will tease me or laugh at me or give me the side eye or they won't talk to me and kind of subconsciously, okay, so not kind of in their conscious thoughts, but kind of subconsciously, they're trying to get me to follow the rule again, right? They're saying, hey, Mike, you're breaking a social rule. You need to follow the rules, right? Don't do that. If you come to school tomorrow and you're wearing regular clothes, then we'll treat you as we
Last
normally
year-
treat you.
Last year on February, in your class, everyone wore like you wore a pink something scarf or supporting LGBT, I guess.
Yeah?
I remember that.
Yeah.
Because in that time my friend used to be in your class.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah. So what was it about?
Yeah, it's. I'll explain it in a minute. I'll explain the pink shirt thing in a minute. Yeah. So again, I'm going to give you a break here, but what I want to say before the break is again, we learn these social rules, right? We are socialized. We are encouraged to follow them, and when we don't, we can be punished, right? There's little social punishments that humans like to use. And again, we're trying to push them a little bit. We're trying to get them to follow the rule again, right? People will have all of those reactions, like you explained to me with the dress, and basically on a subconscious level, they're saying, hey, you're breaking the social rule, you need to follow it, right? And then, of course, if I come in tomorrow in men's clothing, the jokes will probably stop. People may talk to me again,
Yeah.
right? They won't tease me. Well, maybe they'll tease me for a day or
They'll
so.
remember it.
They'll remember, but things will mostly go back to normal. Okay? All right, let's take a quick break and we'll come back. We'll talk a little more about socialization. I have some stuff for you to read and I have some stuff to show you, okay? But take a break first. Okay, and we're back. So we're talking about socialization here, the process of learning society's values and behaviors and norms, right? And so what I would like to do is I would like to go to our textbook here. Whoops, go to our textbook here. And I would like you to read just a few pages, 3 pages, okay? So the textbook itself is in Microsoft Teams. It's under Files. You'll see, I think it's called Introduction to Sociology. And I just have, as you can see, 3 pages for you to read and 3 questions for you to answer. And I'm just going to open this and make sure. I think the pages refer to the pages in the PDF. Yeah, or do they? Hang on. Yes. So the pages here refer to the pages of the PDF, not the pages that are on the textbook page, okay? So it'll be easier to read that way. So just read those 3 pages, answer those 3 questions. I'll give you some time and then we'll discuss the answers to those, okay?
It's on the Teams?
It's on Teams. Were you the other thing? Yeah, and actually, Zartaj, if you want to use the computer below you, you can do that too. Yeah, that might be easier. Okay, I'm just going to put some time on the clock here, and then we'll talk, okay?
It's on Teams?
It's on Teams. It's under Files.
Oh,
Now you're good? that? Okay, good. Sorry? It should be. It's under files there. Yeah. There you go. Intro to sociology text. Perfect.
Thank you.
No problem. So, Edel, we're just reading from the textbook. It's on Microsoft Teams, okay? Okay.
Ask you a question.
Oh, of course. Sorry, I thought you were stretching back there.
I can't find it.
Oh, okay.
In like
Sure, sure. Let me look. Sorry. Okay, so you should go. Okay. Under files, I think. And it's right in that first folder.
this one. Oh, okay,
There you go.
thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah.
So 3.2 starts on page 56.
You should start on page 64 of the PDF. So not of the textbook page, like not the page number it says in the corner, but on the PDF thing. So that's interesting. Okay, because it's not open in the PDF reader, you can't see it. Right. Okay. That's good to know. So you'll want to start from 3.2, but I'll keep that in mind because I didn't realize, because if you open it in like Adobe, you'll see the page number, and then you can easily. But if you open it there, I didn't realize you can't see it. So I'll point that out. But yeah, start from 3.2 there. Okay, that's good to know.
Since it's confusing that different question notes are there in PDF and textbook. So till which page should I?
Until so you start. Where are you starting? 56.
Yeah.
So 59 then.
Okay.
Where should you? I would, jot them down or type them out for yourself somewhere so that you have them to look at.
I wrote it in OneNote.
Sure. Sorry. What?
I thought it's part of an assignment.
Oh. Okay.
I'm not really understanding.
The second question: how do societies encourage people to act according to values? Okay, I see. Maybe we could think of that second question as how do societies encourage people to follow social rules, whether they're values or ideals or norms? How are people encouraged to follow the rules? just another minute or so, and then we'll talk about these, okay? It's always there. Yeah, it's always in. It'll be in Teams till the end of the course. What's that? Yeah. Yeah. You can also download it from there too if you feel it's easier to have on your computer. You can download it, and that's fine.
Is the book from the US?
It probably is, yes.
Because the people mentioning United States is that.
Yeah, I think it's definitely written by someone who's American and probably written for Americans as well. But then lots of textbooks are.
Yeah.
Okay. So I know you're probably not quite done, but I just want to try to, or maybe you are, but I just want to get maybe one or two of these answered because we've only got a few minutes left. Before I ask that, how easy was this to read for you? So on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being, oh gosh, this is so easy, you know, it's like kids stories, or wow, this is really difficult and complex to read. What do you think? It's what?
It's easy.
It's easy to read? Munadi, what do you think? So? Give me a number. 1 super easy, 10 super difficult. What's that? 5?
5.
Okay. Edel, what do you think?
5.
5? Dunya? 5 or so, somewhere okay? Yeah? Eunice?
I think the first and the third questions are pretty easy to answer, but the second one I'm stuck there. That's why.
Okay. All right. So we're a little bit all okay. That's good to know because again, this is the textbook we're using here. That's good. Thanks, Adon and Jesse and Kayla. That's good to know because this text is like a first year university textbook. So if you took Introduction to Sociology or Sociology 101 or 100, this is probably the kind of textbook you would get. So the fact that it's not super easy, but it's still readable for us, that's good, right? It's a bit of a stretch, but that's okay because it's just a little bit over our heads right now, but not too far, I hope. Okay, so the difference here, what is the difference between values and beliefs?
Values are considered standard for school, like school and society.
Okay, so what?
This means values are the beliefs, like not beliefs. Values are the thing that is that gives justice to the society.
Yeah. So values are the things that society thinks are good, right? That things that society thinks are desirable, right, or important. What are some cultural values, do you think? Either in your culture or in this culture, or what do you think? You can use some of the ones that the textbook mentions. Right? What are some cultural values?
Having a good job,
Having a good job?
like having a good status.
Oh, okay.
A good job means you have a good status in the corporate.
Right. So some sort of financial success, right? Having money is valued, right? Money itself is valued, right? So Adon says here, helping people, right? That's a value, right? It's a cultural value to help others. Yeah, and Kayla has this too, which I think is correct here. Principles, ideals, or standards of behavior, while beliefs are convictions. Yeah. Oh, so I guess that says what beliefs are, right? Beliefs are things that people think are true, right? Whereas values are things that society thinks is good, right?
Counterintuitive?
What's that?
Beliefs are counterintuitive?
No, not necessarily. No, I know we said some beliefs are counterintuitive, but here they're just things that people think are true, right? So in the textbook they mention an example that, Americans believe in the American dream, right? And so the idea that if you work hard enough, you can be successful, right? Anyone can be successful, you just have to work hard enough, right? That's a belief that they have. They think that it's true. Do you think it is true? Eh? Yeah? Yeah? There is some truth to this idea, right? But it is not, we'll come to it later, it is not 100% true. There's some truth to this. So, yeah, helping others, right? Being compassionate and kind, right? Having money, right? Those are all things that society values. Beliefs are different, though. Beliefs are things that society thinks are true, right? And so,
Good behavior.
yeah, someone who behaves well, I guess, is a belief, right? Yeah, the principles held by society. This is what Arad says. That's good too. Last one before we go. How do societies encourage people to behave? How do they encourage them to act according to values? They mentioned 3 things. They what? Okay. Right. So. Yeah, I guess so. So Dunia's got an interesting point. It's something that's not mentioned in the textbook, but we kind of have a conscience, right? We feel guilty if we violate social rules, right? And of course, others sometimes help us to feel guilty, even when maybe we shouldn't feel guilty, but sometimes they help us anyway. That's an important point, right? Humans tend to have a conscience. They tend to feel bad when they do things that they know are wrong. So Adon here says sanctions, as does Arad. And so we've got sanctions. What else do we have? There was 3 things. A sanction is tricky. When we go forward, I'm gonna stick with. I'll just say the other 2. I'm gonna stick with either punishments or with rewards. Okay, sanctions can be tricky because the word can mean 2 different things, and it can mean 2 opposite things. I'm sorry, English is a mess. I apologize for our language because it's a disaster, but. Yes, sanction can mean when something is officially sanctioned, it means it's supported, right? So, Zerlinda is going to do, an activity and it's officially sanctioned by the college. The college supports it, right? But you can also say sanctions can also be like a punishment, right? There are sanctions against Iran right now, economic sanctions against Iran. That means that other countries are trying to punish Iran by restricting their economy and things like that. So a sanction can be a punishment, but it can also be a support. And so it's a weird word, and I think in this class I'll try to just stick with rewards and punishments because depending how you use the word sanction, it can be one thing or the other. Yeah, complicated. English is the worst.
We can use positive sanctions and negative sanctions.
Yeah, that's true. There can be positive and negative sanctions. So that's why I want to stick with rewards and punishments because it's just more clear, right, what we're talking about. Okay, that's all the time we have for today. We'll come back to this tomorrow. I will We'll come back to this tomorrow. We'll review it, and then I have some short video clips to show you that kind of illustrate social norms in a humorous way. But until then, good work, online people. Thank you for contributing. I really appreciate that. And we'll see you first thing tomorrow. Okay. So have a good afternoon, and yeah, bye.